Hey, Facebook Live. Marcus Ambrester coming at you. Several days ago, I put up a couple of posts about sex and sexuality and the goddess energy, and there was a lot of interest in it, and I've been wanting to get this video done for you for several days. And this week I'm a single dad, so it's taken quite a while to make the time. I finally got the time. Kids are at the water park playing on the slides and the wave pool, so I decided to scamper down here to the lake. And so if you can hear me okay, give me some hearts, give me some love, give me some likes if you can hear me, if the sound's okay. And I'll show you where I am. Down here at the lake, you see the dam off in the distance. Some nice bamboo growing, little man-made beach over there. And I'm here at the pavilion. So if you can hear me okay, give me some hearts. There we go. Thank you much. So about, 9-10 years ago, haven't shared this with many people in 9 or 10 years since it happened. I had just finished a Native American dance. It was a 4-day dance, fasting, no food, no water. And the dance ended on a Monday. And on Tuesday, I still hadn't come fully back into my body. I was still had one foot in the spirit world. And normally after the Native American dances, we're asked not to have sex for a week to 10 days after, to let the energy of the dance, to let the energy of the ceremony continue to reorganize us. And this particular dance was all about relationships, and so my ex-wife and I had sex on a Tuesday morning, the day after the dance had finished. And at one point, while she was on top of me, I went into full-blown vision. I was no longer in the same environment. I was no longer laying in the bed. I was no longer in the bedroom. I went into full-blown vision. And several years later, she heard me telling this story to somebody. And she was like, was I there? Was that? Because she had no idea what had happened. And I don't know how long I was out. I don't know how long I was gone or how long the vision lasted. You know, some people say these things happen in an instant. But what happened is, to me, it was like watching a movie that covered the history of sex in human beings for the last 6,000 years. The history of human sexuality for the last 6,000 years. And so I will tell you what I saw, and a lot of things that I've learned since then. There's a lot of historical perspectives that people have shared that are in alignment with it, and a lot of people have been given the gift of vision with a pretty similar story. So I'll share this with you and just leave it out there for you. Do with it what you will. I call it the 6,000-year dream. But it was like watching a movie. The movie started with a ceremony 6,000 years ago where all sexuality was about honoring the divine goddess in every woman. And so women learned to cultivate that goddess energy, that healing presence, that divine flow within themselves in feeling their sexual energy. And also the other day I asked the question, what's the divine essence? What's the spiritual essence of sex for women? And I shared that 60% of women in the survey said it was about safety. And all the women who said safety, those are the women who have safety issues in their life. And so they either don't know how to set boundaries, they've got some kind of sexual trauma, some kind of emotional trauma, but they don't feel safe generally. But 40% of the women said the same thing. There were only 2 answers to this question when I asked. But the other 40% of the women said it's about channeling the divine goddess, feeling the flow of that feminine aspect of the divine, feeling that flow through your body as you're making love, or feeling any sexual energy. And so, back to the dream. In this 6,000-year dream, all sexuality was about honoring the divine goddess. And so the women, the young girls, were taught growing up to get in touch with their own goddess nature, and they were taught the true purpose of sexual energy is to be able to touch the divine and feel the flow of the divine through their body, through their heart, through their soul, the entire time that they're making love. And the cool thing, in my vision, men were taught that their sexual energy is about honoring that divine goddess. And the reason for that is the spiritual essence of sex for men is during that moment of orgasm. And for people that are like completely brain dead, men that are completely checked out, even them, during the moment of orgasm, they go into a complete state of no mind, where they're completely in their senses, they're completely out of their head, and their awareness is fully in their body. And for the majority of men that I'm aware of, that happens so fast that they're not even aware that it happens, but it does happen. It's just an instant where they are completely in their senses and completely out of their thinking mind. They're completely out of their pain body. They're completely, not thinking. They're completely in their senses. And in that moment where they're in their senses, they're open and receptive to being touched by the divine. So that covers what it is for men. And with training, with teaching, with coaching, men can extend that period of openness and vulnerability and that period of being touched by the divine. But for women, the blessings come through when they honor and they're open and receptive to that divine goddess energy, that aspect of the divine that is feminine. And so 6,000 years ago, everybody was taught this. And this is, again, I'm talking about this vision. I had a full-blown vision 9 or 10 years ago where I was shown a movie of the history of human sexuality over the last 6,000 years. So if you can still hear me, give me some hearts, give me some love, let me know you can hear me and see what's going on. So this dream that I had, it started with being shown a ceremony where the high priestess and the high priest were making love, and everybody else was gathered around to watch. And in the watching, they were open, trying to stay clear themselves, to feel blessed by the energy that was being emanated by the high priest and high priestess. And in these ceremonies that happen periodically, this was a time where the community came together to partially remember the true spiritual essence of sex. It was also a time where the high priest and high priestess went to get support, and where all the practitioners and teachers came together to get support from each other, and then they would go back into their communities to do their teachings to support the rest of the people. And so these ceremonies where the high priest and high priestess would make love and feel the support and blessing of all the people there, and all the people there could feel the blessing of the divine energy being washed over them, those ceremonies were kind of the cornerstone of the teachings for all the people, and then those teachings would happen on every level down from there. And they said everything was working, in this dream that I had, they said everything was working pretty damn well. And then the way they said it was very specific when they were talking to me in my dream. They said something changed about 2,000 years ago. That's all they said, but they were very careful to state it that way. And, a lot of people say it's the Catholic Church that changed things. It was the fall of the Roman Empire, and that at some point something changed. And the way they said it was the divine goddess was put down. the awareness and honoring of the divine goddess was put down, and the women who carried that sacred sexuality energy were called sluts. They were called whores. They were called the devil, and they were basically bastardized so that those teachings could not continue to reign. And when that happened, the heart got cut out of sex. And so essentially for the last 2,000 years, we've been suffering through sex that's separated from having our hearts fully present, and definitely separated from our spirituality. And that's where you get the kind of teachings that say sex is bad, so that as we're growing up and that sexual energy is beginning to grow in us, we're not taught the spiritual essence of it. We're taught that it's bad. We're taught that we shouldn't be doing it, shouldn't be feeling it. Oh, I'm going to turn this way so you can see me. Okay. So give me some likes or hearts if you can still hear me, if the audio is still good. So when I met a man from South America, and he said that the ancient stories that were told, those stories are still going to be told, even if the medicine people quit telling them. And that's kind of the feeling that I got when I was given this vision, when I was given this dream. The ceremonies of the high priest and high priestess were still being done, except when the heart was cut out, they became like in the vision it skipped to like the 1700s, early 1800s, with the back alley sex shows, where you got the people went to watch, and they got the excitement of the sexual contact, but they didn't get the heart and the blessing of the spiritual aspect of it, because that spiritual aspect had been, cut out. And so without that divine blessing in the sexuality, you got to have so many frickin' rules, and half the rules basically say don't honor the divine. Don't honor the divine in the woman. Don't honor the divine in yourself. And so you wind up, sex without heart, without presence, without spirit, without awareness of your own spirituality and your own divine essence, is pretty ugly, and a lot of hurt can happen. And so through the 1700s, early 1800s, we wound up with not these sacred ceremonies where there's spiritual blessing going on through the sex, but you wound up with just a raw, empty, physical sex show going on, and that continued into the clubs in the 1920s onto what we have today in modern internet porn. And if you look at what's going on the internet now, there are millions and millions of women doing internet porn, and they're not, in a lot of cases, they're not doing it against their will. And a lot of people have opinions about how degrading it is to women, and I think anytime anybody's not honoring the divine within themselves, they are degrading themselves in some way. But I say that without judgment. It's like more of an ignorance thing rather than an insult. We all need to know the divine within us. And when I think about these millions and millions of women, and not just young women, there's women, of all ages doing like the amateur internet porn now. In doing that, those are the women that in the old way, during the era of the goddess, during the rise of the goddess, in the reign of the goddess, those women that carry that sacred sexuality gene, that sacred sexuality energy, they would have been noticed when they were young, when they were very young, and they would have been taught by their grandmothers. They would have been taught that, oh, Master Kaylee Quinn, absolutely, you're very welcome. She says thank you. So the young women that carried this sacred sexuality awareness, and they carried this energy in their body and in their spirit, they would have been recognized and taught how their sexuality is really, meant to be, and meant to be used, and meant to be not just enjoyed, but to be, in service of the people, in service of themselves, in service of the men that they're with, and in service of the women that they're with. And while sex can be very nurturing, that's not the point of it. While sex can be very healing, that's not the sole point of it. The true point of sex is to touch the divine, is to be carried together, to create something together, to create that opening where the divine can come and touch our lives and bless our essence. And so I wanted to share this. There's so much awareness of the goddess energy coming back, and women essentially saying to the patriarchal system, no more, I'm not going to stay down. I know who I am now. And it's not a thing about putting men down, because every woman that I know that's stepping back into her goddess awareness is honoring the men around her. And, and one of the biggest lessons of that is not playing the role of the victim, and being aware that if any man steps at you sideways, it's the response of the goddess is not to feel victimized and not to feel powerless. The goddess is able to use every one of those scenarios as a teaching moment. Now, I'm not there. I know some of you have had, you've been raped, you've been sexually assaulted, and been in situations that nobody should ever fucking be in. And for that, I'm sorry. On behalf of men, I'm sorry. On behalf of other women, I'm sorry. That should not happen. Absolutely not. And the men and women that have perpetrated that, are so fucking wounded and so fucking angry. That doesn't mean they're not hungry. They're not hungry for the blessings. They just happen to be searching for the blessings and the lessons and the openness in the absolute worst way ever possible. And so for those of you who had those kind of traumatic experiences, do what you can to heal. Find the right person to work with. Find somebody that knows about sexual trauma. Find somebody that knows about sacred sexuality and can walk you through that pain so that you can get you back, so that you get to feel your own divine sexuality again. And when I say again, but it may be for the first time. So, sisters and brothers, goddesses, warriors, I honor you. Send me a note. Let me know how this sits with you, because I want to hear from you. Send me, leave a comment, share this video, like this video, tell your friends about it if this resonates with you at all. I'd love to hear what you have to say. It's time for all of us to get back to doing, the kind of lovemaking that we came here to do in the first place, where you can't tell a difference between, your lover's heart and the heart of the divine. And so if you're struggling with that, struggling with feeling that energy open up inside you, give me a call. Shoot me a personal message. Let's make a time to talk. Or find a local tantra practitioner where you are. Find somebody that can help. So, love you guys. Bless you. Give me a call. Let me know how I can support you.